Today I'm looking at two other autos I bought. I haven't quite got over my auto obsession yet because, as I said a while back, purchasing autos and possessing and carrying autos, it just became legal in Illinois again on the 11th of August. So it hasn't been 2 months yet, and I'm still really enjoying buying autos. Well, the two autos I'm comparing today are the Kershaw Launch 3, which is on my right, and the Benchmade Casbah, or 4400, which is on my left. Now, these two knives, I think, make an interesting comparison for a couple of reasons. The Benchmade Casbah is the least expensive folding knife that Benchmade makes. The Launch 3 is part of the Kershaw Launch series, and all of the Kershaw Launches are pretty reasonably priced. I know at Grand Prairie Knives in Troy, Illinois, which is pretty close to where I live, real close to where I live actually, all of the launches run between $71 and about $105, I think. And the launch is right in the middle of that area, right in the middle of that, at around $89. The Casbah, on the other hand, is $148. So, as far as Benchmade autos go, it's pretty inexpensive, especially if you're talking about out the fronts, which can be over $400. But even among out the side autos, regular push button autos, the Casbah, the only other auto knife that Benchmade makes that is as low priced as the Casbah is the little California size auto they make, which is a really good looking knife. I can't remember the name of it right now, but it's a good looking knife. But the reason I have both of these out here is that both of these knives are about the same size. If you look at the Launch, if I'm going to put them down here. If I put the Launch down here, and if I put the Casbah down here, you'll see that they are about the same length. The Casbah is a little bit longer, but not a lot longer. The Casbah has a little bit longer handle, but blade length on both of them is about the same. Both of them have 3.4-inch blades, and both of them weigh right around, right around the 3-ounce area, right around 3 ounces. Now, part of my point in making this video is that I was quite a critic of Kershaw. When I bought a Launch 2, I was quite a critic of Kershaw because the Launch 2, just had a totally inconsistent lockup. Now, I took the advice that Apostle P mentioned when he reviewed the Launch 5. It was Launch 5 or Launch 6. And he said that, if you have a Kershaw, you have a problem with lockup, tighten the pivot a bit. And I tightened the pivot, maybe an eighth of a turn, a very, very small amount. And all of a sudden, my Launch 2 was locking up like a rock. Now, this Launch 3, on the other hand, came out of the store with a perfectly good lockup. It has never failed to lock up. And I guess that's kind of a low bar, saying that a knife has never failed to lock up. But compared to the problems I have with the Launch 2, that was really quite impressive. Now, the point I want to make is that at $89, a Kershaw Launch knife that locks up well is really completely competitive, in my opinion, excuse me, with $200 Benchmades, to be honest with you. I know the Benchmades have a heavier frame. Like something like the AFO obviously has a much more sturdy frame. But say a lot of the other ones that are right about in the $200 price range, I think the Kershaw is really quite competitive. Now, the one thing I will say about the Casbah is that, it's a grivery knife. It's made out of grivery. And the thing that really gets me about the Casbah, that kind of turned me off a bit for a long time, is the fact that, it is grivery. I mean, it feels pretty plasticky. But, compared to, say, the Bug Out, which is also made out of grivery, the Launch has a much more thick build. And from what I understand, it has a complete liner on the lock side, and on the other side, the liner goes down to the middle screw. And so it has a really sturdy frame. I mean, in terms of just how it feels, it's a very, very sturdy knife. And so therefore, I don't have any doubt that this knife will perform well. I haven't really done any substantial cutting on it yet, but I think that it will perform quite well whenever I do use it. I mean, all I can say right now is that it came out of the box extremely sharp. The light cutting I've done with it so far really was a breeze. Now, one thing about it too, I'd say that both the Kershaw Launches and Benchmade are quite competitive in terms of steel. Because one thing with the Launch 3, like all of the other Kershaw Launches, the blade steel on it is CPM 154, which of course is a powder metallurgy version of 154 CM, which I understand, has a really substantial performance advantage over regular 154 CM. And I can also say it sharpens pretty easily too, because one of those times the Launch 2 didn't quite lock up. It was bouncing around in my hand. I actually accidentally dropped it, and I had to touch up the blade a little bit. It touched up very easily. And so therefore, in terms of just quality of steel, ease of sharpening, I'd say that the Kershaw compares quite well with Benchmade. Now, obviously, Benchmade has quite a following. They've been making autos for a long time. And, Kershaw has kind of been in and out of the auto market. Now, if the tendency towards legalization continues, I'm pretty sure that auto production is just going to go up even further. And I think that Kershaw has a really, really smart marketing strategy in making quality knives at a pretty low price point. I mean, the one thing that they have to really be consistent in is the lockup. I mean, because to me, lockup is, just in terms of just sheer safety and reliability, lockup is the number one concern that I think any knife owner has, especially with an auto. You don't want to have the blade bounce and fail to lock up, and then you get ready to use it and it folds on you, and next thing you know, you're in the emergency room getting 20 stitches. And so if Kershaw continues with the launch like this current launch, I think they'll be in good shape. Now, the one thing I've noticed about this launch is that compared to my Launch 2, the button is a lot more easy. It's a lot more easy to activate this button. It's a much softer touch, and I think it might come out just a tad bit slower. And I think we all enjoy a snappy blade, but I can live with a little bit slower as long as it engages and holds like it's supposed to. And so therefore, this is just a kind of a short comparison. I'm not really doing any kind of heavy duty work or whatever, but I'm just kind of making the point that, if you're interested in budget knives, the Launch series, especially if you're able to go to a store like I am able to go to Grand Prairie, since I live pretty close by, and I can check them out in person, the Launch, it becomes a really viable option. Because that way I can look and make sure I pick up one for really solid lockup. Now, Benchmade, on the other hand, they, like I said, they have the name, they have the market, and they're in a position that they can charge what they charge for their knives. Now, I will say that the Casbah, I think, is a great deal. As far as Benchmade knives go, other than something purely kind of cosmetic, which for me was the fact that I really think grivery just sounds a little bit different when the locker engages. It's a little bit more of a hollow sound than the sound of an aluminum handled auto knife locking up. I think that, you know, it's a really good knife. And I think that both of them are good choices. And, you know, obviously I bought both of them, and I intend on keeping both of them. Now, I've said it before, and I have to say it again. I think it's probably about time for me to slow down on buying so many autos. I mean, even though it's about 92 degrees out here today on the second day of fall, you know, I was out today and I saw Target, you know, was already getting all these huge shipping containers in for Christmas. And, you know, it'll be Christmas time before I know it. So I guess it'll be time for me as a husband and father to stop treating myself and to make sure that all the kids and wife get what they want for Christmas. And so I guess at a certain level, these autos were my early Christmas, because, you know, because I wanted to be able to carry an auto for years, since, you know, I'm a cutlery fan. And I think that most people who are into cutlery, especially people who like tactical style knives, are interested in autos. I mean, it's part of the world of cutlery, and it's only natural to be interested in them. And so I'm glad I've been able to get a few. Well, anyway, this has been a long, winded review, and, you know, with actually relatively little action. But I hope anybody who watches it gets something out of it. Take care.